The wind howled through the thick forest surrounding the graveyard as Ilya stood frozen in front of the mysterious tombstone. It was just another quiet evening in Tbilisi. Yet something felt terribly wrong. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the earth itself was holding its breath. Every shadow seemed to flicker with hidden movement, and the whispers he'd heard in the distance now felt impossibly close, as if they were right behind him. He had been digging for days, trying to uncover the secrets buried beneath the old cemetery. But with each layer of earth he removed, the mystery only deepened. The crypt he had uncovered days earlier had led to more questions than answers. Who had built it, and why had it been sealed for centuries? The strange coin he'd found in the crypt, etched with symbols he couldn't decipher, haunted him. Its weight seemed to pull at him with a force beyond his understanding, making him feel as though it was drawing him deeper into the past, into something he wasn't supposed to uncover. Ilya's obsession with the site had consumed him, and the more he uncovered, the stranger things became. Strange visions plagued him, flashes of faces from another time, and the whispers grew clearer, forming words that gnawed at his mind. Phoenicia, Apocryphus, they whispered. He had to know more. Desperation led him to an ancient manuscript in the library, pages of a language he couldn't fully understand, filled with cryptic drawings that mirrored the symbols on the coin. As he studied the pages, a chilling thought gripped him. What if the graveyard wasn't just a burial site? What if it was a prison for the souls that could never leave? The truth was slipping away, but it was getting closer, and it was more terrifying than anything he could have imagined. The figure in the shadows stood still, its presence both chilling and unearthly. Ilya's breath caught in his throat as the air around him thickened, heavy with a sense of impending doom. The moonlight flickered across the graveyard, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to writhe in response to the growing tension. He turned towards the crypt, where the symbols were now shifting, glowing faintly as if the very stone were alive. He could feel the ground pulse beneath him, the cemetery itself stirring with the promise of something ancient awakening. His hand tightened around the key, its glow now almost blinding. He knew what had to be done, but the consequences were too great to fathom. Was he truly ready to release whatever lay trapped in the crypt? The whispers around him had become deafening, each voice urging him to complete the ritual. Yet another voice, one that was quieter but no less urgent, warned him to stop, to turn away. The figure in the shadows began to move, its gait slow, deliberate, like a predator closing in on its prey. Ilya's legs felt frozen, his mind screaming at him to run, but his body refused to obey. His eyes locked with the figure's dark, hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through him, into the very marrow of his soul. "Stop it," the voice rasped, barely a whisper. It was Nino, but not Nino. This was something else, an echo of her, perhaps, or something far worse. "You don't understand. You've already unleashed it." The key in Ilya's hand burned with an unbearable heat. The whispers crescendoed, and in that moment, he knew there was no going back. The door was opening, and whatever came through would change everything. Ilya's heart raced, and his grip on the key tightened. The air around him seemed to pulse, vibrating with the power of the entity's presence. The whispers in his mind had become deafening, urging him to open the crypt, to finish what he had started. But in that moment, something inside him snapped. He could feel the weight of the centuries pressing down on him, but he wasn't going to be its pawn any longer. The ground trembled beneath his feet as the entity's voice echoed, cold and commanding. "You cannot stop this," it hissed, the force of its words shaking the very earth around him. Ilya felt his resolve harden. He wasn't just holding the key, he was holding his will, his defiance against whatever lay on the other side. With a deep breath, Ilya raised the key high. The moment seemed to stretch out, every second pregnant with unbearable tension. He thrust the key into the lock on the crypt, praying that this was the right decision. For a moment, the cemetery held its breath. Then, a deafening growl erupted from the ground itself, followed by a violent tremor that rattled the trees and shattered the gravestones around him. The earth cracked open, sending a shockwave that nearly knocked him to the ground. "No," the entity screamed, its voice laced with fury. "You cannot stop me." Ilya staggered backward, feeling the pull of the dark energy trying to overwhelm him. But he held his ground, the power of the key thrumming in his hands. He wasn't going to be manipulated any longer. The tombstone exploded with a violent force, the stone fragmenting into the air as a swirling vortex of dark energy emerged from within. The entity's form began to take shape inside the vortex, its limbs writhing, its face contorted in rage. But Ilya's resolve didn't waver. He wasn't breaking the seal, he was reinforcing it. His body surged with an unfamiliar energy, a primal force deep within him awakening. He reached out, grasping the swirling darkness, and instead of letting it consume him, he channeled it, bending the dark power to his will. The ritual was never about opening a door. It was about keeping the entity bound. With one final focused effort, Ilya slammed the key into the crypt's lock again. The vortex collapsed in on itself with a deafening crack. The cemetery fell silent, as though it had never stirred. The figure of Nino, now freed from the entity's grasp, collapsed beside him, gasping for air. Ilya's hands shook as he stared at the crypt. The seal had been restored. The entity was once again locked away. But he knew this wasn't over. The entity would return. It always did. And next time, he would be ready. Ilya stood at the edge of the cemetery, the cold weight of the key in his hand, a constant reminder of the events that had just unfolded. The crypt, once shattered and threatening to release an ancient, powerful entity, was now calm, its symbols faintly glowing in the moonlight. Beside him, Nino, trained and weary, was still processing the horrors they had just experienced. But as the quiet stretched between them, Ilya couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The entity had been sealed, yes. But for how long? Nino's voice echoed in his mind. It always returns. Had the ritual been truly completed, or had he simply delayed the inevitable? Ilya's mind swirled with unanswered questions. He had disrupted the ritual, stopped the entity's release. But was there more to this crypt, to this cycle, than he realized? The entity might be gone for now, but the unease gnawing at him made him question if they had truly put an end to it. As Ilya walked away, the feeling of being watched lingered. He couldn't escape the certainty that the entity, whatever it was still out there, waiting. If you're intrigued by stories like this, subscribe for more eerie tales and mysteries that will leave you questioning the unknown.